Shout out to my thirds teams. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Good job. I'm pretty sure that if I met freshman me, I would absolutely punch them in the face. Okay, punching freshman me in the face wouldn't perfectly demonstrate the growth from the rash individual I once was, so maybe that's not the answer. But no doubt, freshman me was aggravating and mean, often rude, even if in jest, and drew a lot of attention, failing to draw on social cues telling me to quiet down or be more appropriate for a certain setting. But I was terrified to try. Terrified to be more serious in moments when I felt insecure. I was terrified to be kind, afraid to show parts of me I wasn't ready to talk about. I yelled, "I'm gay and black," so that I didn't have to acknowledge feeling like I was a different shape than everyone else, that shape being round. I'd scream in the middle of the dining hall because I was comfortable drawing attention to myself that way, but I didn't want people to pick at the things I wasn't sure about. Like, I'd rather hear she's so loud than she's not that good of a singer, you know? I never felt artsy enough or black enough, and I definitely wasn't a varsity athlete. I never really felt comfortable hanging out with only white kids either. So instead of trying to be more comfortable with me, I was mean. I did the meanest thing I have ever done my freshman year in Miss Parker's English class. I turned to my then enemy and began the abuse I had planned for that day. "Hey, Wes. You're the youngest of three, right?" "Yeah, like you have two older brothers." "Do they suck as much as you?" He was panicked and annoyed. He said, "What?" He was so indignant, and he said, "My brothers are so great." And I said, "Wow, they sound so great." "Guess your parents ran out of energy." He said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, your brothers sound great, but your parents clearly ran out of energy because you suck so hard." I then promptly turned away, put my earbuds back in, and went back to doing my work. Every time I think about that moment, it makes me want to shrivel up and hide. I get this weird, gross, hot feeling in my chest, and my hands shake like this. Now, it is so embarrassing to think that I would ever fix my mouth to say that to anyone, no matter how much they unsolicitedly play their guitar. Even then, I knew I couldn't be mean forever, because while executing the perfect drag in a single moment felt really good, the soul-splitting guilt that followed the bullying and meanness was an overall drawback to knowing that I was the clapback queen of the school. Now hold on to that, we'll be back in a minute. My freshman year, my mom told me I had to try during soccer tryouts. She only said that because I had been anxiously and semi-jokingly talking about playing thirds because I genuinely didn't believe I could make JV. Right, like, it wasn't even tryouts for varsity. It was just JV or thirds. Simple enough. But I knew I was better than some of the thirds players the year before, but I was only sort of sure I was gonna make JV soccer that fall. I mean, I didn't know the coaches, but being fast definitely helped compensate for my lack of foot skills. Cut to after tryouts freshman year, I made the team. That was freshman year. And then the next year, when Ms. Nasser came to coach alongside Galliano, I made the team. Then the next year, when Profe Nesa came to replace Galliano. This year, I didn't. I didn't make the team. This fall, I played third soccer alongside some of my favorite people on campus, bopping to the best tunes ever, laughing harder than maybe I have ever laughed. We developed our own inside jokes, bullied our coaches, celebrated goals with our beloved airplane shoe shine thing. We just did it for the lesbians. Woo! I cried so hard, almost every day this fall. They weren't tears of joy because Djibouti won the World Cup. or tears of laughter from Amy's memes, or Aruja's really cringy middle school photos. I did you a favor not putting them up there. Or watching Lily make a really dope save and then immediately fall headfirst. No, actually, I sobbed after almost every practice, save about 6, for over a month, because I was upset. I was angry. I was annoyed. I was mad at myself for not trying. Scheduling made showing up to tryouts tough that week, but the one day I attended, I didn't go hard because A, I wasn't worried, and B, it was hot, and if you didn't know, running is a lot of work. Throughout the season, I had to bite back tears every once in a while when standing on the field. One day, I went so far as to just squat down and shriek at the top of my lungs like some inhuman hellion. In the evening following that outburst, I was telling my parents about it as Kat Marchessault, varsity soccer player, ate dinner with us. She corroborated my story, recounting that she heard me screaming while she was in the middle of her own practice nearly 2 fields distance from me. When we played the Pike varsity team, a few weeks into the season, I was honestly confused. Brooks JV consistently lost to Pike varsity, so I didn't know why Thirds was playing them. To me, it seemed ridiculous and, to be honest, a little cruel to set up this game. Playing a team I wanted to be on for nearly 10 years as a Pike student, while on a team I had felt myself falling to, triggered within me this rush of anger and shame and spite, and most of all, fear. My eyes burned and my throat stopped up as I watched the man who literally helped me survive 8th grade coach a team full of kids 4 to 7 years younger than me. At halftime, it was 4-0. I had this horrible image of a man who had been a major pillar of support turning to me, crying on the side of a field I didn't feel like I belonged on. I could see him deciding in that moment I hadn't grown or matured since middle school. I could see him watching senior me, who has found themselves happier, more comfortable, more stable, more in control of myself, revert back to this overly sensitive child who cared far too much about other people's opinions. Something inside my chest began to twist and twitch, flinch and flutter, clench and cringe, and I left. I turned around at the whistle and I didn't look back. I beeped into the dorm. I sat down on the couch. I texted my mom. I said I should have dropped soccer. She started to encourage me, but the tears flowed anyway. I FaceTimed her and continued to sob uncontrollably. I told her I was miserable. I told her I hated it. I told her I was mad at Janelle for almost making me play. I said I was mad that I had to watch it all. I told her I was mad at Mrs. Crump Burbank because it was clearly some kind of cruel and unusual punishment. I told my mom that I'd been playing soccer for longer than some of those kids had been alive. Granted, being on soccer teams was more the word, but playing might have been a stretch for those first 6 to 8 years. Sitting and making dandelion chains in gold is not a soccer star make. Point is, I was heated. No, actually, forgive my language, I was pissed that I was on Thirds. To add insult to injury, the final Thirds game was moved to the turf. That day was fun. I love all my teammates, and the things they gave me, the flowers were delicious, the poster, the warm-ups. Cheering on the boys' Thirds team before taking the field was beyond fun, and it made my day so much better. As I shouted to the team to move the goals closer in, because we're not running all that distance, I cried thinking about the reality. I cringed thinking about the reality that my first, and likely only, Under the Lights game would be on a Thirds team. I thought it was another weird punishment from Mrs. Crump Burbank because of that one time I rode my bike too fast down the hill to the athletic center. Or maybe it was for the time I played Freaky Friday at full volume in the locker room. I'm not sure. We won, in spite of a last-minute goal on ourselves. Daniela's first goal of the season. But the final gut punch came at the end of the game. The ref came up to me and said, "Hey, you played JV last year, right? I remember you." He complimented me on my play and said something like, you were good, you kept stepping over the lines last year, and he extended his hand for a fist bump. My brain hit pause in a panic. I wanted to throw up right there. I had to focus to keep my balance. I blinked and breathed deep to settle my stomach so I didn't upset Miss Crump Burbank even further by desecrating her beloved turf field with my vomit. In that moment, I had a choice. Earlier in the season, if this had happened, I would have had to brush it off. I wouldn't have been able to break down in front of my teammates and their parents. If I showed my misery early in the season, I would have had to show up the next day. And I was worried that my bitterness would have made everyone uncomfortable or make them pity me. Worst of all, they might have known that I was upset, that I had really thought I was going to be on JV and that I was crushed to be on thirds. That wasn't fair to them because above all, I really cared for my teammates because they were my friends before tryouts even began. So back to the choice at hand. I could cry right there. It was the end of the season after all, and I don't care. Or I could succumb to the feeling of embarrassment that I was originally the only senior on the team, the only senior who had more years on JV than even the coaches. I could be bitter, or I could pause and think about the times that I got to spend with Arouge and Gabby, thirds honorary twins. I could think about listening to Caitlin laugh as she faked out and sped past defenders in a scrimmage, or watching Arya get down when I played Le Freak by Chic. I could think about Emma's beaming smile as she scored over and over in this, her first season of soccer. Or I could think about Juliana screaming. I'm not really sure where that came from, but it's a sight to behold. I could think about the super long and uninvited, yet appreciated hugs from Daly all season. Or I could think about Maddie and Daniela putting together a poster and getting me flowers that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. I could think about all the ka-chows and the time Janelle screamed at me for playing Fight Night, uncensored, on the bus at full volume. I returned to my body after what felt like a lifetime and said thank you to the ref, returning his fist bump, then spinning on my heels, laughing about the moment. I put on Goofy Goober Rock, Thirds' honorary fight song, and grabbed my 4th Lemonade Capri Sun from Miss Saunders, our #1 supporter. That moment was viscerally shaking, not because I felt like I checked out of my body, but because it sent me nosediving into desperate introspective search for confirmation that I've grown, that I've matured, that I've improved. I have this fear of not changing, not growing. The fear of being the same as I was yesterday, or last year, or as the 6th grader trying to hide that they wanted to be on varsity at Pike and still failed. What I realized was that in all these moments, I wanted something. I wanted it so bad that it hurt. I just wanted to do better. That has meant a lot of things. I wanted to be nicer. I wanted to be more aware. I wanted to be more patient. I just wanted to be on JV. I wanted to not be embarrassed about thirds in front of my old teacher from Pike. I wanted to not be afraid to reintegrate with my friend group after having messed up and wronged people I cared about. I wanted to be the MC in cabaret my sophomore year. I wanted to get a better score on my science test, kind of without studying. I wanted the girl to like me back. I just wanted to be happier. I wanted a lot of things, but I didn't work for them because I didn't know how. I didn't know how I needed to approach the things I wanted to get them. What I needed to do was refocus my energy. What I need to do is refocus my energy into the beauty in life. I need to relish those moments on the bus where Nikki Iamonico screams before he cheats by Carrie Underwood so hard I thought she was going to severely injure herself. I need to feel good about my vocal auditions and not feel so dreadful before, during, and after dance auditions. I need to remind myself that I'm 17, and just because something didn't work out with one girl once, I literally have the rest of my life to figure it out. I need to acknowledge that, oh my God, I was so so mean to Wes. And so many others. But that's a was, and there's only is. I need to breathe and say to myself, you know what? Ka-chow. I'm Lightning McQueen, all right? Float like a Cadillac, sting like a Beamer. Pixar's Lightning McQueen tries, then damn it, Brooks will too. Every day, all day, I just have to practice saying to myself that all I have to do is try. Not trying landed me in a situation where I was angry and embarrassed, and I've learned that with some distance, trying to recognize the friendships I made on thirds were far more valuable than my pride. In closing, to reference my favorite early internet phrase, TLDR, too long didn't read, give it a go, fam. You have nothing to lose. In the long term, the easiest and best choice is the one that makes you the happiest and helps you to be your best self. Sometimes you have to squint a little harder than other times to see the beauty, but for real, there's something great, something beautiful, a reason to enjoy every single thing you do. Ka-chow.